The deal is, when you're looking at a job site, one of the main things you want to consider is not, it's probably okay. You should literally ask yourself every single moment that you're on the job site, if it rains right this second, will this pollutant discharge off my site? And if you can ask yourself that question, then you can answer, no, I've got all my control measures in place, whatever those are. And then we don't have time to go into all the potential, control measures. But if you can ask yourself, if it rains right this second, is there going to be a discharge of a pollutant from my site? If you answer yes, then your site's not in compliance. You have to go and figure out, okay, where's my barriers? Where's my collection places? I need to cover this. I need to sweep this up. I need to, whatever the case is. And so if you're walking around the job site, and I know you do an official inspection, weekly or every other week and after a rainfall on construction sites, or you do monthly or quarterly inspections for industrial sites, and your head's on a swivel, you should say, if it rains right this second, is that a potential discharge? And if your answer is yes, fix it.
Hey there, welcome to the Stormwater World podcast. Shout out to our parent company, Digital Stormwater. We're out there making an impact in stormwater one click at a time. We put more stormwater people in front of your stormwater products and services. How we get there is totally up to you. Some of the services that we offer are social media management, Google, LinkedIn, and Meta ads, SEO and content creation, website builds and updates, AI automations, consulting, and a lot more. So the question is who do you know that needs our help? If you're on YouTube, you can click on that QR code to learn more, or you can give us a call at 844-451-2534, or you can visit us at digitalstormwater.com and schedule a call with us today. I'd like to thank everybody that's been listening to this podcast. We appreciate each and every one of you. Let's get back to the episode. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to a new episode of the Stormwater World podcast. Happy to have a good friend of mine on today, Brad Flack with StormwaterOne. Brad's got over 20 years in the game, and so he's got me by plenty of years, as well as plenty of experience and plenty of knowledge. So that's why he's here. So we're going to talk to him a little bit about online and adult education, as well as some field work and just his experiences in general. And I'm just excited to get a chance to talk to Brad and have him share with everybody. So Brad, thanks for being on the podcast.
Glad to be here. Finally made it in.
I know, right? The schedules, right? The stars aligned. The stars aligned, and you're here. So for those folks that don't know you want to talk a little bit about kind of your stormwater journey, if you will?
Yeah. So basically, and just I've got my cameras in the middle, and I got two screens, and I'm reading some of kind of our bullet points, and I'm looking at you, so I'm kind of looking all over the place, but whatever.
It's all right. The people listening to the podcast, well, they won't know. They won't know, except for the facts you just told on yourself.
Yeah, exactly. No, like I'm one of those guys. Like, what you see is what you get. I don't play all those mind games and stuff. I'm not a Jedi. I'm just literally one of the guys swinging a sword out there, or a lightsaber if you're using Star Wars. But anyway, man. I was thinking about this the other day, and I was just telling you before we started the recording, I was going through LinkedIn, kind of doing just inviting people to like different pages and stuff, and just trying to network. I was off of LinkedIn for well over a year, maybe 2 years. It felt like so much social media and too many things, and I just kind of checked out for a while. But I'll get back in there, and it was like, oh yeah, so and so's over here. I've known that person for all of my career, and I didn't realize that they were now in this position. And it's weird to see they're still doing stormwater. They're still in the industry, but they're just kind of finding little niches and little places. And they started out as the EIT, and then they became a professional engineer, and then they became this, and they were a principal, and they were a vice president, and now they have their own engineering firm over here, or they're an engineer working with a land development group or whatever. It's just cool to see. You stay around long enough, it's still, we feel like we all kind of grew up in the industry together. It's kind of a cool thing. So I came from I'm a native Houstonian, native Texan, very proud of that, even though I had nothing to do with that. I was just born here, but for whatever reason, you're just proud of being a Texan. I talk about that all the time. But I came from...
Yeah, so I tell I'm not from Texas. So I just tell people I got here as soon as I could.
That's right. I like that.
Everybody's proud here.
Yeah, that's right.
Sorry, go ahead. Go
No,
ahead.
I like that because I like that we've got some really good people that have come to Texas to improve what was already good, right? So we're making things better in Texas. And I started in the industry just kind of accidental. My father-in-law had a friend, and he had a company, and he's since sold it off, but he's retired. And he said, "Hey, I want to hire you." And I said, "I have zero idea what it is that you do. I have no idea what you do." He's like, "That's all right. I'll train you." It's like, "Great. I'll take money. Thank you very much. I'll take a job." And I started, and I literally, my first 6 weeks was on the job training. I was out showing up at the job at the office at 6 a.m. to load up trailers with hydromulch bales and seed and fertilizer. And I was loading them into the machine. I showed up, we had one day where they instead of having the hose to spray the hydromulch, the guys were playing a prank on me. I guess that's the hazing that I got. And they instead of turning the valve to open the hose, they put it into recycle mode. And they're like, "Hey, I don't think it's working." And I opened the hatch, and it blew hydromulch all over me. I was covered head to toe. So okay, very funny. Jokes on me. I'm the one office sales guy that's out here with all these guys that are hard working outside doing this stuff. Pull the prank on me, I'm fine with that. I'll survive. I am a fan of pranks, so I also enjoyed it from that standpoint. And then just went into this is pre recession, pre 2008. Again, I've been here for I'm in my 21st year of stormwater and erosion and sediment control stuff. So I kind of the way I like to explain it is I didn't a surfer doesn't create the waves. A surfer just surfs whatever waves is presented in front of them. And so I didn't create this economic boom and the housing and development, all that stuff that was happening around Houston pre-recession. And that was a really big stormwater erosion and sediment control wave. I didn't create it. I just surfed the heck out of it, and I was very successful in my sales, and then ended up switching over and helping somebody else kind of build their business, and added, on top of the erosion and sediment control, I was doing hydromulch and erosion repairs and erosion control blankets and all that kind of stuff. And then I switched over to doing the construction, doing stormwater pollution prevention, and doing the BMP installations, and doing inspections of post-construction detention ponds and interceptor units and all that kind of stuff. And it was kind of like adding another layer to what I was able to do. And then after I left there, a buddy of mine and I partnered together. He's a civil engineer, and I partnered with him. And I was kind of building the stormwater erosion sediment control business as a department or division of his engineering firm. And I was able to bring in engineering work for him. He was able, of course, to say, "Hey, we just designed this detention pond. It needs to be inspected, permitted, whatever. So here you go." The we were able to pass work back and forth, and did that for almost 10 years. And just learning along the way, added in industrial stormwater permitting back in 2012. So I've been doing industrial stuff for 12 years. So just kind of like this overarching thing. And I was a history major. I was going to be a high school teacher and a football coach, because I'm whatever. I don't know. I don't know what I was going to do when I grow up. I still don't know what I'm going to do when I grow up. I may never grow up. That's kind of people that know me, they're laughing because that's so true.
Yeah.
And so I get to this place where I'm like, I'm not an engineer, but I have all these experiences. So how can I differentiate myself to let them know that I might know what I'm talking about? And so I started getting all those certifications. That's why I have so much alphabet soup behind my name. It was just
yeah. Hey, that's my fault. So wait, I do that. I do that for everybody that comes on the podcast.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not just Brad Flack. It's Brad Flack, QPSWPPP, QCIS, QISM, CESCL, CPESC, SESWI, QSM, Senior Instructor, and SME, which is, of course, Subject Matter Expert.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the podcast.
Yeah. Sorry for that commercial break there.
Those are Brad's credentials.
Yeah. And I literally started accumulating those, because I was like, I want people to have fun when they're around me, but I want them to know that when I'm also working with them, that I I have been studying in my craft, in my industry, to know what I'm talking about. But I don't know everything there is to know. I'm not going to be that guy. I've listened to the podcasts that have come out previous to me coming on. Like, oh wow, I didn't know that. I didn't, I connected with Doug, and I mean, it's just there's a lot of cool stuff that's out there that I'm still learning about, and I just have a real desire to want to learn. I'm always reading. I'm always watching videos and shorts and reels, and I'm connecting with
Well,
people. I like going to the conferences and all that stuff.
that's awesome. That's a great compliment then, because 20 years, and that's kind of the goal of this thing, right? To put out more information for everybody. Now in the course of the time that I've known you, I mean, I've seen you present and teach at conferences and whatnot, and now you've kind of switched it up. And so instead of being that guy in the field and running all the things and pulling your hair out, those watching YouTube will get that joke. Um, now you're kind of on the other side where you're
That's
just
right.
training people,
That's
right?
right.
And so, which a couple of things to think about there is, number one, you still are in the field, which I think is huge
Yeah.
for the fact that you're a trainer and you still got your ear to the ground, or the pulse of what's happening
Yeah.
out in the field. But do you want to you want to talk about kind of maybe the difference for you as being
Absolutely.
the teacher now, instead of being out there being the doer,
So
and
when
kind
I
of
was
like,
running the contracting, it was a contracting consulting stormwater erosion sediment control, company. We had something in the order of, I think, 500 monthly inspections. We had something in the order of like 80 to 100 weekly inspections for construction sites. The first ones were post construction, like detention ponds, interceptors, inlet filters, all that kind of stuff. And then I had something in the order of getting close to 100 industrial inspections. And that was a huge, you're when you have that much going on, you're really managing people. You're not really dealing with as much, you're not granular down to what's happening on the specific site as much anymore, just because you're running people at that point. And so now that I'm on the other side, where I'm instructing and giving people all the information that I have and that I learn and have been utilizing, I think I still have, I think I calculated it a couple of weeks ago. I think I got 10 or 12 clients left that I've been with them for a long time, and they just trust me and like me, and they know that I'm, full-time training and teaching, so I can do their stuff on lunch breaks and, quick look after work on Saturday morning, driving out of town, I'll stop and look at it or whatever. And so that keeps me where I still have to keep up with the actual permits that are coming out and the actual issues, because it's not just an academic, well, my professor told me this, and so now I'm telling you that, and none of us ever worked in the industry. I have worked in it for, this many years, and I'm still have my fingers on the pulse of what's happening. It's a different kind of animal, you know.
well, I know. So you've been with StormwaterOne now, what, a couple of years, 3 years, 4 years?
So I
It's been a while.
started in 2020 part time, in 2021 a little more part time, and then 2022 like half time, and then 23 and 24 have been full time with them. So because
Awesome.
I got my business partners bought me out in 2019, and so it was like it was another crossroads of what do I want to do? Do I want to stay in stormwater? Do I want to go learn how to drive big rig trucks, or like the whole thing, what I want to do when I grow up? I have an opportunity here to make a shift if I want to at this point. And at that point I was just like, I really like the stormwater industry. Ty's not that bad to be around when you go to a conference,
Oh my gosh.
hang out.
Well, everybody liked your presentations when we were in Ohio together. So kudos to you. I think the teaching definitely is leaned into your superpower. Um, Kind of in that same thought, I know you guys are working on an industrial stormwater course.
Yeah, so
Do you
we
want
I've just
to talk
finished we
about that a
just
little
finished
bit?
early this year with my part of it, which is the content part of it. And it follows the EPA multi-sector general permit, which is also called the industrial stormwater issues permit. California actually labeled theirs the industrial stormwater permit, but the EPA calls it the multi-sector. And I finished the content for that earlier this year, and it's been in what we call post-production, where it's making the graphics and the videos and putting the slides, where they look nice and they flow nicely, and there's exams and all the knowledge checks and all that stuff. So it is coming out this summer. And it's a place that's been growing over the last few years. Whenever, I think it was, I can't remember if it was 2017 or 18 or 19, somewhere in there, when California was like, okay, we've got to grab a hold of this. Here's the industrial stormwater permit. And I'd already been working on it for a few years. And I co-wrote an article with Ryan Janik with Mapistry out there. So I have been touching it for a while, but it's now kind of everywhere is now picking up the speed on this industrial stuff. So it was a good time to come out with a new course. And so that's coming out imminently. We're literally in the final throes of getting all the last, because we want the user experience. How many times have you taken a online training or course and you're literally like, okay, click the button. Okay, click the button. And it's like, I really could have just finished this in, a day or something like that. What we're doing is we have, it's VARC, but that's what we call it. But it's visually appealing. It looks good. There's auditory. We have someone reading the script behind the scenes. We have closed captioning, for those that are hearing impaired. We've got videos. I do a virtual session, which means you're going to take the online classes and then you come with me, and I'm going to help explain and kind of dive down into itty bitty details to help you understand it and be able to implement it better. And I've got homework that I send to you, which is like crossword puzzles. It kind of scratches all the different itches that people might have in their way that they learn. And so that's what's taken, the time to get it out. But it's going to be good. And we've been working on updating all of our courses over the last 4 years, and they're top notch. I know that we've got a fantastic team. I know the whole team behind what we're doing. I'm one cog in the machine, and
right.
but it's well, it's like very, very well refined. It's well lubricated and energized, and everybody kind of does their individual parts, and it's firing on all cylinders. It's really cool to see, going through all that, to see that happening. Right. So my marching orders for this year has been go and speak at every possible stormwater erosion sediment control conference that you can get approval to speak at. And so I've been on the road, like I was telling you before we got on, like just about every month I am somewhere speaking something. And I enjoy travel. I enjoy speaking, and speaking in front of an audience is not it energizes me. Other people, it really kind of like drains them and they feel, dread about it. I feel excited about it. I'm a social butterfly anyway. So for me, I really enjoy it. So I really like doing the presentations. And like you're saying, I was able to get some feedback. The most recent large conference I did was the Ohio Stormwater Conference in Sandusky. And I had a lot of people that said, hey, I really enjoyed it and I learned a lot. Like those are the two things. I want learning to be fun and entertaining. And I'm probably going to poke fun at somebody in the audience. I'll just pick on them and make it where it's not just me up here talking and you listening. Like it's kind of a back and forth thing. And I want you to at least learn one thing new. You may have 30 years in the industry and you know a lot more than I do, but hopefully I'm able to bring in at least one thing new that you didn't know before. That's kind of in the back of my mind. That's what I'm shooting for.
I got you. Are you in the training? Like, are some of the different trainings? Are you in it? Or I know you provide the content background, or are you actually?
Yeah, they don't really like my face.
It's been a while since I've taken one.
Yeah, they don't really like my face out there too much. No, it's really more. I'm not in there as far as the actual like training. The online stuff. When you do the virtual or the in-person option, you'll get me, and I'm the one who's doing all those.
You want to talk about some of that?
Yeah. So, well, we've got a couple other trainers that are working with us. I know Alex. He's a good guy. I've known him for a long time too. And so the Certified Erosion and Sediment Control Lead, which is a Washington State required training, they approved us years ago to be an online host for that training. And so Alex, he's from the Pacific Northwest, and he's got lots of experience up there. So he runs that whole program for us, and he does a great job. I've sat through that program, and just kind of I learned a few things new. And there he had a few jokes in there that I was like, oh great, I'm stealing that for sure, kind of stuff. And it's interesting because when you just take an online training, you get no feedback. You're just going to sit there and listen, right? But with the virtual, I actually take and I'm teaching them how to use online resources. I have curriculum that I go through, and I look at who's in the class. I taught class yesterday, and I was like, okay, I got somebody from Rockwall, Texas. I got somebody from Atlanta, Georgia. I got somebody from where did I have Kansas. I had somebody from I think it was Topeka, Kansas, or something like that. And so I had all these people from different places, and so I just said, okay, well, I'm just picking, Rockwall, Texas. And so all of my examples, I was like, well, if you're building something in Rockwall, Texas, and the guy had commented, he was like, hey, I'm from Rockwall. Are you from there? He's like, it's excited about it. But I've just tried to personalize it. And I'll do online. We go through the USDA web soil survey together. I'll show them how to do that and utilize that to understand the soils on their sites if they don't have a soil survey already. And I'll pick, hey, this is somebody in Des Moines, Iowa. I've never been there, but let's go there together online. And I kind of pick it. And so it's a personal experience. And I kind of pick the people that are in class. And then I've had other people that, they'll send, I tell them, I said, for the 3 or 4 weeks that you're kind of in classes with me, send me. I got pictures, I got video, I got problems. We got a job site with issues. I said, you're going to learn a lot more with me helping you through that issue than you are just listening to me for an hour for 4 weeks in a row. So we kind of work through an actual scenario, and I work them through analyze first. What's the issue? Let's identify, not just I got erosion. Okay, well, where is it coming from? Where's it going? What's the cause? All that stuff. And then we go through, okay, what are the possible solutions? For erosion, is silt fence a good solution? Not really. Erosion is not the same thing as sediment control, and silt fence is a sediment. So we kind of break down, and I help them walk through how to analyze the site, and that makes it's much more intricate and intimate whenever we're doing those virtual classes together.
Right. So you know what? Let's lean into some of that real quick for everybody, because who knows who's on, who's going to listen. Hopefully that new person that can get something out of this, or maybe the veteran. But let's you mentioned trying to give somebody one thing, if they could remember one thing or learn one thing, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit, but
okay.
I know you can handle it. But if we had to do a crash course, because obviously we don't have an hour, right?
Right.
Let's just do a crash, like, summarize, or like somebody that's new, what can they look for? Give them that one thing that they can learn that's going to help them in the field from day one, week one, in what they're looking at on a construction site.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying.
You pick which one, whether it's CGP, MS4, industrial, you pick, and you explain kind of like your thought process, if you can, in 5 minutes or less.
I'll pick. It's both construction and industrial. We're talking about exposed potential pollutants. All right.
Okay.
So people are like, oh, well, yeah, we do all of our manufacturing inside, but I got, this other piece is sitting outside. Or, I know I've got these exposed, bags of cement or something outside, Portland cement sitting outside. And, I don't want those to get wet, but if it happens to get wet, not a big deal. I can replace that, whatever. I'm making up, it could be whatever potential pollutant, some sort of epoxy, chemical solution, solvent, whatever.
Gotcha.
The deal is, when you're looking at a job site, one of the main things you want to consider is not, it's probably okay. You should literally ask yourself every single moment that you're on the job site. And again, you're thinking about other things. Safety is huge, of course. I don't want to downplay that, because I have seen people fall down manholes and break elbows and all sorts of crazy stuff in my career. But one of the things you want to ask yourself is, if it rains right this second, will this pollutant discharge off my site? And if you can ask yourself that question, then you can answer, no, I've got all my control measures in place, whatever those are. And then we don't have time to go into all the potential, control measures. But if you can ask yourself, if it rains right this second, is there going to be a discharge of a pollutant from my site? If you answer yes, then your site's not in compliance. You have to go and figure out, okay, where's my barriers? Where's my collection places? Where's, I need to cover this. I need to sweep this up. I need to, whatever the case is. And so if you're walking around the job site, and I know you do an official inspection, weekly or every other weekend after a rainfall on construction sites, or you do monthly or quarterly inspections for industrial sites. But as you're walking around the job site, it's not like you're sitting in the trailer the other 20 days of the month or 25 days of the month. You're walking around the job site looking at things, and your head's on a swivel. You should say, if it rains right this second, is that a potential discharge? And if your answer is yes, fix it. Like, just get it, do something, cover it, put it inside of a storage, shipping container, or move it under a cover or whatever. Like, one of the things that I find that really kind of grates on me is whenever they start clearing and grubbing a site, and there's one down the road, like between here and my kid's high school, and I drop them off for high school morning workouts all summer long, right? So every morning he works out from 7:30 to 10:30, and I drop them off. On driving over there, they're clearing and grubbing this property. It's probably 15 acres. They're going to put some new apartments in there, which is fine, and they just clear and grub it, and they're just grading now. They didn't put the silt fence up until all that work was completed. But we had some really big rains come through Houston, some storms this spring, right? This past month or so, we've had some pretty big storms come through. And I've just witnessed all this dirt just flowing across out into the roadside ditch, out into the street. And I'm thinking to myself, what are you doing? As soon as you get that line of sight clear, where that this edge of the site is clear, get you a perimeter control in there. And if you've got if you accidentally tear it up, or you need to go readjust it or whatever, there's a small cost relative to the cost of that development of that site. And this is the other thing I will tell people is, like, stormwater on your site, I don't know, less than 1% or something like that. But it's the one thing that's going to hold up everything, So, like, pay attention to what's going on the job site. Yeah, put your silt fence out there if that's what you're going to do. And if you, in the process of final grading and moving things around or installing a culvert or whatever it is, you tear up some of the silt fence, fine. That you have to do that as part of whatever you're doing to your job site. But go back and put a new BMP back in there. Reinstall. Another thing that I say in my classes is I'll say, there's this wild-haired, crazy-eyed guy from the 90s. Remember that guy? He was selling us, believe it, of all things, he was selling us towels, right? The Sham Wow. Remember that guy?
Yeah.
And on the heels of the success of that infomercial, this guy, his name was Ron. I can't remember his name, but Ronco. He was selling these countertop rotisseries. Remember that thing? And the catchphrase was "set it and forget it." Set it and forget it. And the whole audience was set it and forget it, the whole thing. And that's a lot of people, that's what they do with their BMPs. They just set it and forget it. Hey, we're done. But job sites are dynamic. You're changing dirt, grass, trees to a new school or apartments or whatever, a new, KFC chicken or whatever it is you're building, right? You're changing something from this to this. That's a dynamic change. So therefore, your BMPs should also be dynamic across the construction. Or if I have an industrial site, my BMPs are not going to be as dynamic, but they should be. You don't just set it and forget it. You have to set it, inspect it, maintain it, repair it, replace it. You have to keep your eye on it, make sure it's not, if I was looking at a site, it was a distribution warehouse for 350-gallon totes of dry cleaner chemical. Sounds like something I would not want in my waterway nearby my house. So they had a large detention pond at the back that was for their stormwater discharge, but they also had a gate that they could crank down if there's some sort of leak. There's like a concrete wall with a metal gate that they could just close it and block it, all that stuff from leaving out the job site. Well, I went to go and do an inspection, and I went to go crank on that gate to make sure it was working. It was rusted. You couldn't move it. Like, okay, well, what happens if a discharge? If you had a leak right now and it started raining, what's going to happen to those dry cleaner chemicals? They're going to leave. So you can't just set it and forget it. You got to set it, inspect it, maintain it, revert. But I probably went longer than you wanted on that, but that's.
Oh, no. I mean, but that's the overall deal, right? That 30,000 foot look and say, hey, if it rains, what's going to happen with all this stuff, right?
Right.
Step number one, where do I even have any controls?
That's
and
right.
Step number two is that the controls, you got them there, but did you put them down when they were supposed to go down, or did you put them down when you just wanted to check a box?
Right.
right? So that was
Exactly.
number two. And then last thing I heard was like that it's a blocking and tackling sport. It's not just you're constantly changing, you're constantly looking, you're constantly making those updates, changes, and corrections to
Yep.
your site as you
Absolutely.
go. And I think I don't know. I like to think sometimes it's like education. Sometimes I think it comes back to money. Maybe a little bit of both of why these sites just it feels like almost every site is out of compliance at any given time.
You could
Like it's
walk
really
onto any
hard
site and find something out of
to find something
compliance.
if you wanted to,
Yeah,
right?
of course. But that's
But
the goal. The goal shouldn't be for you to be perfect, because we live in a world that's imperfect, right? I mean,
right,
as
because
much as you
everything's
love your
changing.
brand new car, you still have to fill it up with gas. You still got to change the oil, and it's brand new. So like, there's
Right.
nothing perfect. There's nothing that's perfect, and
Yeah.
so you've got to continually be monitoring and inspecting, repairing, replacing your BMPs as you go along. We
Let's
live
go with.
in a universe of attrition, right? Everything gets older. I mean, I'm a prime example. You get older, fatter, and balder, and
Yeah,
so,
speak for yourself. Speak for yourself.
but
Um,
everything falls
let's
apart. So you got to maintain it.
Yeah, no, I agree. So let's do another one. So that's kind of the basics, right? Like it's what you would tell somebody, like if when you only had a few minutes, this is how you should approach it. This is how you should think about it, which is great because I mean there's all the specifics, but I think if people understand concepts, it probably takes them a long way. Let's do this. Like, what would you say is? Let's go back in the Brad Flack files of all the different things that you come across and experiences that you've had, and let's share with everybody a weird one or an interesting one or something that just was like, it could be a failure, that
Yeah.
happened. It could be a success story that was weird. Up to you. I think people learn a lot from other people's failures, but I know it's always hard
I
to put
served.
that out there.
I served
But
as the stormwater. I served as the stormwater consultant for the Houston Zoo for a few years,
okay,
and I had two memorable things happen at the Houston Zoo. The first one was they had an interceptor device, and it has a diversion wall, and it had a 4-inch PVC line and whatever. And a turtle got stuck in there, and we had to actually go in there and block off the water flowing through, suck it all out, and then we had to I hopped down in this unit, used a saw, cut the PVC pipe off, extracted the turtle, and then we had to glue all these couplers back together to get this thing back to working condition, so we could save a turtle. So that was interesting. And then one of my inspections, they had a brand new baby elephant that was born, and this thing's right behind where the elephants are at the Houston Zoo. Like when you're on the front side, you're just looking at the elephants. You can see on the back side, that's where the workers and the zookeepers and stuff are. That's where we have to get access back there to inspect the unit back there. And the brand new baby elephant, I was back there popping storm sewer lids, and I'm checking the levels of sediment, trash, debris, all that stuff. And I literally, the baby elephant goes, "Oh, look how cute! It's a baby elephant." I'm just like, "Oh, so I take pictures for my kids and everything." And the baby elephant, it's got these huge I mean, the metal bars are this big around. Because you think about an elephant, it's very strong, and it's got these huge metal, metal bars, galvanized bars for this gate, but they're not spaced for a baby elephant. So the elephant
yeah,
starts
just
kicking
walk
its
through
legs through
it.
the gap, and it puts its head through the gap. And I start yelling, I'm like, "Help, help. What, you want me to push a 500-pound baby elephant back into this thing? Like, I don't have, what do you want me to do? Help." So the zookeepers had to come running over there and push this thing back through there. Anyway, that was a memorable experience. So that was kind of a cool situation. I had another one that was kind of a disaster, and this is again one of the reasons why I'm a big fan for making sure you've got all your BMPs and that you're inspecting and maintaining them, because this was on the northwest side of town. They're building an apartment community there, apartment complex, and they didn't put any inlet protection in on their job site. No inlet protection. And the
Oh
type of
wow.
soils that were out there, is like a mixture of sand and clay. And so the sand would erode and the clay would get left behind. And that soil, as it went down into this stormwater quality unit, it solidified where the clay was left behind and the sand was in bypass, because it had filled up. It's supposed to be up to here, and or it can fill up to here, but it was completely filled up, and so half of it was filled up. So the water was just in bypass, and it was washing the sand in bypass mode because it was never maintained. And then what was left behind was the clay, and it had it was summertime, and when the water wasn't flowing and it dried out, and I think it was end of July, August. It was hot, it was dry, and the clay had solidified so hard and compact that we couldn't use a vac truck and a pressure washer to get it in solution to suck it out. So I had to get a rope ladder and send guys down there with 5-gallon buckets and shovels. We had to cut the shovels off so they were only about 18 inches long, so they could get down into this 48-inch diameter pipe, crouch down like, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs in there, just picking away at this hard clay. And what should have been about a 2-hour job turned into a 2-day, 16 hours. And, we had pictures and everything proving it. And it was just, the customer was thinking, I really got messed over on this job. And I said, what messed you over was your contractor not putting in the BMPs on the job site. And we had to clean this thing to get the certificate of compliance, certificate of occupancy, all that stuff. We had to have this thing cleaned out and prove it was cleaned out. And so it ended up being huge expense, and it was not cool. But that was one of the first light bulbs in my mind. It was like, this is a problem. What caused this problem? And I chased it back to, they had very little silt fence in the job site, just around the perimeter. There was none interior where you had, flat grassy areas that would go over the curb and then go down the storm drains in the site. They didn't have any silt fence on those, and there was no inlet protection. So everything just went down in the storm drain. It was a disaster. But I saw, again, I saw one guy. He fell down. He was regrouting the walls of a brick riser on a manhole, and he had climbed out for a water break, a lunch break, or something, and he wasn't paying attention, and he walked in there and fell down. On his way down, he hit his elbow on the ring going down and broke his elbow. Of course, we had to wrap him in a harness and use a tripod with a winch to get him out. I'm not weak, but I'm not strong enough to lift a dude out of. I don't care what they do in the movies, man. It doesn't work like that. You can't just take a rope and just pull a guy up.
Wow. Hey, so I know you're obviously you're going to be a little biased because you guys have done a lot of great work over there at StormwaterOne, and of course you're intimately involved. But what would you say to everybody, or give us the benefits for that person that is like, I go to conferences, or I do this, or I do that. And so I get some of this education here, and then of course there's just so much time in a day and all that. But give them the benefits of getting some online training, and then the benefits of being able to, not just the benefits of online training, but the benefits of being able to get online training and to be able to get some of your experience distilled down into a course to where that they can go out there and be better at their job, right? Obviously, that's right. I'm giving them one benefit, but sure. Give us your take, or give me your take on the benefits of online training.
I have all that alphabet soup after my name, and some of those have a Q in them. Those are qualifications, and some of them have a C, and those are certifications. And just kind of a really high overview. A certification, for example, let me go into teaching, right? So you go to school, I'm going to be a secondary, history teacher, right? So I'm qualified to teach that class, but I've got to go sit for the teacher certification exam to make sure that I can pass that to become an actual teacher. So the qualification portion of what we do, and that's what we focus on, because we're actually a licensed vocational trade school, licensed in the state of Connecticut. And so I know we do our stuff online, in person, across the country, traveling and stuff, but we are licensed, and we actually had to turn in our stuff to the Department of Education. I want to say it was April or early May. I had to hey, here's all of my certifications and qualifications. They're all up to date. Here's my history. I've taught, we added it up. And in my career, I have done over 500 training sessions, which was kind of, man, when you put it that way, that, it's added up, it's aggregated to quite a large number. And so anyway, our goal is to train, instruct, inform you of what you need to know for the erosion, sediment control, stormwater management, how to do inspections, how to put together a stormwater pollution prevention plan, all that kind of stuff. This is the goal of the qualifying, is that you know what you're supposed to do. The certifying just simply tests, do you know it? We're trying to get you the information so that you can become qualified. The certified says that I knew enough and had enough experience that I was able to sit down and take a 4 or 5 hour exam and pass that thing. So they're kind of part and parcel one to another. And I've got both of them, and I have done the training, the teaching for both sides. One, you get, hey, here's my curriculum vitae, my resume. I've got experience, and I want to be approved to take the certifying exam. And then there's a 1 day we're going to review most of what's on the exam, and the rest you should know. Like, just boom, you're done. And then you take the exam and you pass or fail, and you can take it again, whatever. For us, we are under the assumption you don't know as much, and we're trying to bring you along so that you will have the information. We're giving you tips and tricks. I'm showing you webs on my virtual, what we call the advanced class. So you can always take the online, but we have the advanced course, which is where you also get those 3 or 4 sessions with me. And that's where I'm giving you, here's how you find the information on the internet. Here's an EPA website. Here's how this thing works. Let's walk through an example together. It's giving you actual tools that you can utilize on your day-to-day basis. Not just, I've been doing this long enough, I've accumulated enough information through the years, now I can go sit for that certifying. We're trying to qualify you from nothing or from very little to now I have an understanding as to what I need to be doing. I don't know if that answers exactly your question, but that's our benefit. Our selling point is you come in, maybe you're new, and I have a lot of people that have long careers, but their city, like for example, golly, what's the name of it? It's in Nebraska. I'm just thinking, I can't remember the name of it. The small town of Nebraska, they got kicked into MS4 phase 2 requirement. And they said, okay, we need a stormwater guy, and you're the stormwater guy. And he was like, well, I don't know. So he comes in and he gets his qualifications. So now he has a working understanding of what he should be looking for when he's doing the enforcement for that little city in western Nebraska, so that he can now say, okay, I know what I'm supposed to be looking for. I know what I'm supposed to be checking when I'm going to job sites, et cetera, for these contractors. So it brought him up to speed, even though he's got other experience in road and bridge and transportation and all this other stuff. He got switched over, and I've got a lot of them that have been that way, where they're new superintendents or they're a recent college grad and they just got hired on, and they're just, you don't get a stormwater pollution prevention plan course like this when you're in college. So even if you graduate as a civil engineer or environmental degree of some sort, you don't have this kind of real world experience. And so that's what we focus on, is getting you to that place where, okay, now I have an idea of what I'm supposed to be doing on these sites. And so that's the real benefit.
That makes sense. A little bit more hands-on, a little bit more practical for out in the field is what I hear. So that's awesome. As we're wrapping up, I give you a chance to rant a little bit if you like. So let's go back out 50,000 feet in the air and just talk about. You want to give your thoughts or any thoughts to the listeners just about the state of stormwater, the industry, what you've seen in 20 years? I know. Can you wrap all that up in 5 minutes, Brad? You got this.
Okay.
Just like how you feel about things, right? I mean, didn't we? I think we just hit the 50-year mark of the Clean Water Act or something.
52
like that.
years since Clean Water Act.
So it's like,
but technically, they weren't even
some days I think. Yeah,
they weren't even going after the
stormwater.
They weren't going after stormwater when the Clean Water Act came out. It was for point source discharges for industrial sites. It didn't kick in until the mid 80s, really. So you want to look at it from that perspective.
Right. Well, are we making headway? How do you feel?
I feel like in general, we're making some headway. One of the things that I butt heads with is this, and I'm a social guy. I'm cool with the good old boy network, right? You just get in there, you got friends, you got people you trust. But there's this good old boy network that I just butt my head against so many times, because it's well, I don't want to have to put silt fence out there. I don't want to have to, go get a permit. I don't want to have to do that. So I'm going to call, hey, Bob at the city of whatever. I don't want to have to do that. Okay, thanks. Click. Yeah, he said I don't have to do that. And okay, great. So you got around paying, a couple $1,000s, a couple $100 in permitting and putting in BMPs or whatever. You're not helping. That's very short-sighted. It's very myopic, because you're not helping future of our surface water. It's something like less than 3% of the world's surface water is fresh water that's available to us, and like less than 1% is available for human usage or something like that. Some sort of very finite number. And so, like, it's very short sighted of you to be like, well, I need special permission, or I need to be granted a waiver where I don't have to do anything on my site because I don't want to have to deal with that headache. And so I'm just going to pollute all the receiving water, nearby because I'm lazy or cheap or all the above. And so that's just, yeah, it just grates on me, man. It really
Yeah, no,
does.
I'm
It
with you.
grates on me. And so my deal would be, and I know I work with environmental laws, and I've been an expert witness in lawsuits before, um, and I mean the law is there to help us. I'm not for like huge, giant, overreaching government because I feel like
Right.
that is being allowed because people are not taking personal responsibility. And if more people would take personal responsibility, not perfection, I'm not expecting perfection, but if more people would just say, yeah, I want to go to the lake with my kids this summer and go splash and go fishing. And the last thing I want to pull in on my, reel in on my rod and reel is a dirty diaper that somebody let, wash off
Right.
their job site or something. So it's not like you're so disconnected from the surface water. And, a lot of cities and municipalities are going to surface water, as we get away from using our groundwater supply because it's being pumped out faster than it can recharge. And so we're using surface water. Well, the dirtier the surface water, the more cost and energy it takes to clean it so we can actually use it for our preferred uses. And so if you're just like, yeah, whatever, just let it go in the lake. Okay, yes, technically it could go into the lake or the river or whatever, but then we got to go take extra time and money to go clean it out. If you had just prevented it from the first place, everybody would have, more affordable access to water. And so it's just a very myopic. That thing grates on me a lot.
No, you're not alone. I think in a lot of the pods, I ask that question, and it's the same. It's the same song. Like how do we get the and some of these folks aren't even the average Joe, right? Like the
Right.
public needs to understand it better, but the contractors we're dealing with, but it's hard for whatever reason. It seems like it's difficult to get people to connect the dots, right? Like, so you're the good old boy, but you like to hunt, yeah, you like to fish, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
then really you should really care. I'm not really just trying to make you spend money. I think you should actually care about some clean water. Well, man, I appreciate you coming on the podcast. What's the best way for people to get hold of you if they want to ask you a question, talk to you about a course,
Absolutely.
talk to you about stormwater in general?
You can
What's the
reach
best way
out
to
on
get in touch?
LinkedIn. It's BradFlack, Brad Flack. Don't give me no flack, right? So remember that. Brad Flack. LinkedIn, you can do a search for me. I connect with just about everybody, unless you got some sort of weird, profile pic or something. I'll deny you. Or if you send me a
Well,
message, hey, I saw you were a professional on LinkedIn. You need this product. If you come at me like that, I'm deleting your invitation to connect. But otherwise, I just connect with everybody because I like to be a networker. And then the other way is you can email me directly. It's bflack@StormwaterOne, spell out the ONE, stormwaterone.com. You can email
we'll put
me.
all those
And if it's a
we'll put
simple
all those links
question, if it's just
in the
like a
show
real,
notes.
yeah, in the show notes. And then if
We'll
it's a
put
real
all those.
simple question, like, hey, Brad, I got a question about this, and I can respond in like 60 seconds, I'll respond back and say, even give you a free advice on something. If it's something more than that, I'll probably direct you to, hey, I trust these people to be, a more consultant for you because I'm busy teaching and doing the content updates and courses and stuff here. But yeah, I'd love to reach out and connect. I like doing that, and so if you're interested and you want to do that, I'd love to connect and even just to say hi. One of the things I joke about is I said, listen, if I send you an email and you're not interested or you're too busy or whatever, give me a thumbs up, give me a middle finger, give me some sort of response. Give me
Oh
let me
goodness!
know.
Oh wow! It's family friendly. It's family friendly.
Well, you get
Hey,
my
where are
point.
you going to be? Where are you going to be? You want to let everybody know where are you going to be in the next couple months, and then we'll link to those shows in the show notes as well. You want to rattle
I'm,
off some of the
I'm
places you're going to be?
presenting. I'm speaking in the afternoon in June at the North Carolina Nursery and Landscape Architect Summer Summit Educational Summit Series. I am going to be at a private event training for a solar, doing some inspector training for a solar company in Southern Kentucky in July, and then August I'll be at StormCon in Reno, and
Yep,
then
we'll be there.
October I'll be in San Marcos, Texas for the South Central. International Erosion Control Association conference. So
See
those are kind
that.
of my next
See
few
that as
months
well.
coming up.
Gotcha. We'll link to all those shows down in the show notes as well. And hey, I know we've gone a little long, but as long as you have time, I do want to talk about one more thing.
Yeah,
You got time for one more thing?
sure.
You do some great work. Hands and Feet, Honduras, Dominican Republic. You want to talk about that real quick for those that are still
Sure.
with us on the pod?
Yeah.
I think I'd like to give a shout out for those works that you're doing out there. I think it's really commendable, the missionary and the work that you're doing in those
Yeah.
countries.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I literally just got back from the Dominican Republic, and we were helping to create a. They have a drilled a water well before we got there, and then we were helping to connect the submersible pump up to a water tank on top of a hill that then could gravity feed and charge the PVC lines that were installed, and we helped extend it another 200 feet to connect to people's homes. They don't have water access, and it was right on the Haitian border in Dominican Republic, and. So yeah, that was my first trip there, but I've done 3 in Puerto Rico, helping after Hurricane Maria just kind of destroyed that one back in 2017. I went in 2017, 18, 19 there, and then I did a dozen trips in Honduras, helping do water wells, churches, schools, moving people from roadside ditches to getting them set up. But the mayor gave us land and lots, and we helped them do that stuff. So, yeah, it's something I have. It's on my heart. I really like doing that stuff. I calculated it over the weekend. I've done 18 trips, including two to Mexico, 3 to Puerto Rico, 1 to Dominican Republic, and the rest to Honduras. And so it's just something I really enjoy. I feel like we as Americans, I didn't select to be born here. I was born here. I'm blessed to be an American. We've been given so much, and there's so many people that need, and I can't fix the world, but I can help out 200 people now have access to clean drinking water. I mean, that's I can spend a week
Yeah,
of my
it's
time.
awesome.
Yeah,
That's awesome. It always shows through. I feel like on these episodes, those that really truly are in the game, they care about water, and so I wanted to let you share that
absolutely.
with everybody. If there's links to any of those organizations that you would like to share with everybody,
Sure.
just kick them to me, and
Yep.
we'll include those in the show notes as well.
Cool.
All right, brother. I appreciate you being on the pod. Any final thoughts, or are we good to go? Did we miss anything?
I mean, we missed a lot.
No, I mean, not can we ramble on for another 2 hours?
Okay.
But
Yeah. No,
is
then
there
we're good.
anything? So keep an eye out for your new course coming out sometime soon.
Yeah.
You can check that out at StormwaterOne.com and just search industrial.
Yep.
Just search industrial.
It's going to be called you're going to become a qualified industrial stormwater manager. And it literally
Okay, there you
takes
go.
the EPA's industrial permit, and we go section by section through the whole thing. So you have an understanding of what the permit requires and what your responsibilities are as an industrial permit manager.
Got you. All right, homie. I wish you the best. Have a great
Yeah.
weekend. Safe travels, and
Yep.
we'll see you soon.
Thank you.